All right. So I am doing a random live Q&A thing right now because I had a scheduled interview, and then there were some technical issues from the person that was going to be interviewing me for a vegan documentary they were working on. So we're rescheduling that. So, anyways, I knew I had some questions I wanted to get to that were left in the some comment sections on my channel. So I'm going to do that right now. And the first thing I want to say, if anybody's watching, is I started a new channel with my friend Michael McCaffrey, and it's on moral philosophy, and it's called Rethink. Rethink Moral Philosophy as a subtitle. And if you go to the Reasonable Vegan channel and then go to the community section, the post at the top has a link to that new channel. So I hope all of you will go and click on that and subscribe to that channel. Essentially, me and Michael will be talking about anything involving moral philosophy over there. So abortion, veganism, circumcision, various different moral stances on things. And it'll be a way for us to be able to talk about a lot of different topics that we want to talk about without bringing those topics into the vegan channel, which is Reasonable Vegan. So if you're interested in hearing about things that are separate from veganism, go over there. But also, if you're interested primarily in veganism, that channel will be focusing, at least for now, on veganism. So, but that channel will be pretty much just anything that me and Michael do together. So when me and Michael do a vegan conversation, it'll stream live on that channel, and then I'll put it over to the Reasonable Vegan channel if it's vegan related. But anything else I do outside of Michael that's vegan related will stream on this channel. So, anyways, I hope you guys go to that channel and subscribe to it. That'd be great. A question I got from Christina Van Beek when I posted about that new channel. She said, let's see, serious question. How do you have time to manage three separate channels and upload almost every day? Do you have a job besides YouTube? I can't keep up. I study and work part time. Okay, so I responded to her in there, but I'll just respond to it here in case anybody's curious. So I co-own a landscape company with my brother, but I only actively work for that company 1 day a week, and that's it's on a weekday, but also on the weekdays, Monday through Friday, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I homeschool my 6-year-old, and also on the other weekdays besides that landscape day, I have a 1-year-old nephew that I watch essentially like a 9 to 5, watching him. And so if you ever see me stream on a Monday or a Friday, it's probably when that kid's napping. So yeah, I'm pretty busy with that kind of stuff. And then I pretty much only, aside from that, make content on the weekends. So this morning I did a 2-hour reaction video with Michael on Peter Singer and Alex O'Connor. And then I did another talk shortly after that. Yesterday I did like a 4-hour live stream where I had two different people I talked to and then a bunch of Q&A stuff. So I kind of fit all my content stuff on the weekends. But I also really enjoy making sure I have quality time for family. So now that it's warming up, I'm going to be out hiking and going out to the lakes and stuff like that with the family. And so, anyways, I'm just very passionate about talking about veganism and other moral issues. And so I make as much time for that as I can. And I like to have these conversations and then make the conversations available for anybody that might be interested in it. Okay, and I'm currently uploading a video that I'm putting onto the Reasonable Vegan channel right now, and clicking through. It was part of the live stream yesterday, but if you guys missed that, check out this specific video. It's me and a guy named RC talking, and the main topics we talk about are what to do with carnivorous pets, so cats that likely are going to be fed animal products, and then also what to do with sadistic predators. There's a pretty big conversation going around certain vegan communities online that talk about if predators should be wiped out altogether. Like if it doesn't affect the ecosystem, should we take out lions and tigers and such? And that's a complicated issue, and I have thoughts on that. But what we go over in this video is more so to do with sadistic predators that aren't just doing it because they're carnivores. They are, like, if their species is interested in making other animals suffer. So anyways, it's a really interesting conversation, and I just uploaded it. And while I am here doing this Q&A, I'm also going to click in here and edit this to make this be the main video that shows up on my channel. So I'm kind of just constantly doing things with each of my channels. Okay, and I'm going to answer questions in just a sec. Because I think these topics are very important. I really like the idea of talking about these things. I learn something new every day. I learn I found out about a type of rodent called I think it's called a vole or a vowel. Vole. I think it might be vole, VOLE. And it got brought up in the chat during a live stream because we're talking about like crop deaths and stuff. And so anyways, there's a billion different topics to go over and learn about, and I like learning, and these are important topics to discuss. Nikki Dorr says, "Hey man, found your channel a couple days ago. Dude, it's so good. Thank you for all you do for the animals." Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm very passionate about talking to others about animals and figuring out the best moral approaches for how we do things. So yeah, if you ever want to come on here and chat, let me know. You mentioned you disagree with LVL on some topic. You should have a chat with him. I want the best possible arguments for veganism. You seem to be articulating your points very well. No, that'd be great. So I haven't figured out how to use Discord. I don't know if it's because of my external camera or whatnot, but when I've tried, it hasn't worked well. And I don't know if LVL only does Discord. My debate with Vegan Gains was through StreamYard, but when I tried to do StreamYard for Dr. Avi, he said he only does talks through Discord. So I think I just need to figure out how to use Discord. But yeah, my main argument I would have with LVL and Avi and a few others that I talked about today was this idea that if we have a piece of land where suffering is happening, if we claim that it's not fair to call that an issue because that land in nature could have had more suffering, I don't see that as a good argument. And I think the reason would be that if you have an area of land that maybe a farmer has chickens on, then the farmer could say, well, if I didn't take this land and put chickens on here and treat these chickens well and then use their eggs, if I didn't do that, then this land could just have a bunch of animals like torturing each other and raping each other and killing each other. So me doing this makes it a good thing. And I just don't think that's reasonable. But I guess it makes sense if you are the type of person that thinks we should wipe out all predators, because that's different. And I think that's a complicated topic. But the idea of going and just killing all lions because they're going to be harming zebras and so forth. But I think that's a complicated topic, and I like breaking that down. Okay. But yeah, Nikki, if you ever want to come on here and chat, let me know and we can set up a talk. Or if you're ever in a live stream like this right now, I can always send you a link and you can just hop on here. But some people don't like to do the video thing. Yes, that was it. Either way, I'm really looking forward to see all your future debates and discussions. Fingers crossed your channel grows. Your demeanor is good luck for us. Awesome. Cool. Thank you. And I hope it grows too. It seems to have been growing pretty well in the past few weeks. After doing the Vegan Gains debate, I got, I do around, 1 to 2,000 hours watched in the past 28-day period. And so that's pretty cool. And I like to respond to every comment possible, but I'm getting to the point where there might be like 50 comments when I wake up in the morning that I don't have time to get to all of them. And it's actually easier for me to do it in a live stream like this. Jeremy, it's nice to see you. Let's see. Okay. Let me look at some questions. One of the first questions I wanted to go over was I did a video answering a question about what was it? Oh yeah, valuing a human over like 10 billion animals, because it was over this idea of if a animal values its own life, and had a counter question for it, basically saying, one clarifying question I have, do you grant animals the right to not be murdered in the first place, given this is your stance? Is it solely because you give them the benefit of the doubt regarding their desire for continued existence? And yes, that is the case. So I know I want to continue to exist, and so I can assume that of humans, and that's why that's a part of why I value humans over other animals. I don't know that about other animals, but just because I don't know that doesn't mean I'm going to act upon that. It's very possible that animals love existing and they want to continue to exist. I would have to guess it's not likely. I think having that want is kind of part of our intelligence and part of our ability to reason and rationalize. So I guess I would... not knowing much about the topic of how voices work, I would guess that if animals had added intelligence, they would be able to figure out how to talk. But I don't know how much I put intelligence on something's value, but value of existing would be based on desire to exist. I think I don't know any other way to look at that. But I do want to read this comment down here on the same topic. I don't know how to pronounce your name. One of my favorite people to read the comments of, Grammy, I think it is, says, so I think you are saying that if we could kill unawares any number of beings that have no consciously expressed desire to be around tomorrow, that would be more morally defensible than killing one being who has the consciously expressed desire to be around tomorrow. Maybe there are two ways to look at this: the objective, actual state of affairs and some imagined state of affairs, because we have abstract thought. Objectively, I don't see the argument. Whether or not someone wants to be around tomorrow is neither here nor there to them once they are dead. If I kill Bob unawares, it doesn't matter whether he had in mind going to get coffee later on, or that he wants to live on. So yeah, this is a good point. So I want to be here tomorrow. I have plans of stuff to do tomorrow. But if somebody was behind me and shot me and killed me, it doesn't necessarily change anything. Like, I'm either here or I'm not here. So the want to exist is just that. It's a want. And so I think nobody owes me that want or other humans that want. There's no I don't think there is any natural right or morals guided by nature. And so to get that level of respect of not being wiped out, it just comes down to the idea of starting a society and having laws saying, I want to live. So if we all equally want to live, then let's put a law in place that we can't kill each other. And then that's what stops it. So I don't know if it's fair to call it a moral thing to not end somebody's life. I think the making one suffer is a moral issue, but having somebody exist or not exist, I don't know if their want necessarily affects that. Um, but this is a long comment, so I'm not going to go over the whole thing. But if I catch anything else I want to go over with it in the future, I will. Let's see. Since you put so much stock in language, how would you handle the world where our closer cousins than chimps existed and had many forms of intermediate language? Where are so how would you handle? Okay, so okay, would single words without grammar count as expressing future desires? Yeah, I mean, I would say any language where we can understand each other. So it doesn't matter if it's sign language, if we can communicate with people that are deaf or mute, so that's fine. There just has to be a level of communication where you can express something to somebody else and they can understand it. Um, but but I don't know. I don't think that's necessary. Um, I don't know if there's ways for using scientific methods to discover if somebody has a want or will to live, a want or will for existence. But if you could, I don't think the language aspect would matter. That just happens to be something that I think is worth thinking about. Jeremy, I think yes, even humans can't use grammar effectively. Benefit of the doubt, yeah. I don't mean that kind of grammar. All right, let's see what he says. Yeah, if something is speaking, you wouldn't harm it. Yeah, I think almost more so than language, it's the ability to reason. I think, yeah, but in general, I think anything that can be harmed, you shouldn't harm, depending on the definition of harm. So anything that can be made to suffer, you shouldn't make suffer if you don't need to. I don't know if it's fair to call it right or wrong if you do need to. My intuition tells me that I want to call it wrong either way. If I kill an animal or a human on an island to survive, I think it's fair to call it wrong but reasonable, wrong but acceptable. Um, I don't know who exactly it's acceptable to. I'm making the decision that even though I find this act to be immoral, I'm going to commit it to continue myself. If I had my loved ones with me, I might kill a person or an animal to feed them. And I'm doing this wrong act because I have a want or desire to continue myself or to keep my family alive. So yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, if anybody has any interesting vegan questions, go ahead and throw them in here. I'm only going to be on here another maybe 15 more minutes, but I do want to answer a couple questions. There was something. Let's see if I can find it real quick. There's a question somebody wanted me to answer. I feel like I learn something every day. Yes, let's see. Okay, earlier you mentioned that having pets may not be ideal, um, and there are situations where euthanizing cats might be considered better than raising them and killing other animals to sustain them. In light of that, what are your thoughts on the circumstance where vegans are already own cats and have formed strong bonds? Um, I've come across several YouTube videos of vegan activists promoting meat consumption for cats, even advocating for increased meat intake for health reasons. Does this align with vegan principles? Based on your definition, it would be considered vegan if, let's see, if they attempted to avoid feeding cats meat, but they actively endorse meat consumption to a large audience and provide justifications for other vegans to do the same. They They are against euthanasia and taking risks with their cat's health. Um, this, along with another comment that, well, I'll get to that other one in a second. But yeah, so this is complicated. Um, I definitely take issue with the idea of us killing an animal to save another animal. We'd have to figure out how to consider it reasonable that one animal would deserve it more than another. So if you take a pig and a cat, is it reasonable to say a cat's more valuable than a pig? So if you're going to feed that cat more than one pig, that or even just one, but let's say more than one. If you're going to feed it two pigs in its entire lifetime, which you're obviously going to feed it way more than two pigs, then you're choosing to kill a bunch of animals to save one. So in my mind, the one moral option would be to euthanize it, to in the most humane way possible, make that cat not alive anymore. But as far as a cat that's already owned by somebody, yeah, I mean that makes more of an emotional connection to that person, but that doesn't change the moral aspect of it. The moral concern is just looking at that we domesticated these animals, and let's say with cats we didn't even domesticate them; they domesticated themselves. But we allow them to be with us and not just looking for food out in the wild. It kind of makes this issue where I'm trying to think of how to word it, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. No matter what, it's complicated, but the idea of killing something to take care of something else, I would say you should only do that if you have good reason for it. Now, I value humans over other animals. So if we had a case where a human needed to eat other animals to survive, as of right now, I lean towards that being acceptable. But with another animal, like I don't know if I value insects as much as I value mammals. So if a cat could survive off of insects until I figured out exactly where I stand on that, then that wouldn't be a problem. But what makes us think that we should be killing cows and chickens and so on to feed pets? And then one other element is people will talk about how pet food is usually a byproduct, and so that's an interesting element. I don't know if it necessarily changes anything though, and I would want to know exactly. Well, so here's the thing: if it's a byproduct because it's not fit for human consumption, is it really going to be good for animals? And so if we're sacrificing their health because we want to give them either something cheaper, or in this case, if we're going to talk with morals, if we don't want to kill an animal to feed them, we're just going to give them byproducts as long as the byproducts exist, then we're willing to let their health decline while they're alive. So anyways, I think clearly, even if this is not the action we're going to take, that declaring what's moral or not moral, the more moral thing would be to end the ownership of cats and dogs and make it illegal to have them, and euthanize them, or figure out some form of a sanctuary for them to live out their lives if they can't be rewilded. Okay. Oh, Has Vegan says, what's your favorite book on your bookshelf? The first book I ever got on the topic of veganism is this one right here, Eating Animals, which is connected to the topic I'm talking about right now. One of the first paragraphs in there is about how we kill animals to feed other animals. Um, let's see. This is The Chimes by Dickens, and this is one of my favorite books. I also really like this. It's sort of a book, but this is a commencement speech for college graduates from, I don't know which college it was from, but David Foster Wallace. This was his speech, but it was put into book form. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a handful. I don't think I have it out here. I think it's in my house, but The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris is one of my favorites. So, anyways, I'm going to stop rambling there. But yeah, books are good. What if someone says building a house for you to live in causes unnecessary harm to animals? How are you any different than the non-vegan, if that makes sense? Yeah, it does. So this is kind of how I explain it. I value my own life more than others. I think we all living animals, or at least most of them, I'd say at least sentient ones, have a desire to live. That's the reason the animals exist now, is because we evolved to have a desire to live. So we are not and by desire to live, what I mean is a desire to not be harmed. So I don't know if most animals have care to exist, but when something's trying to harm them, they want to not be harmed. If something's trying to, and I think that would extend to killing. And so if they're hungry, they're not going to care. Like a lion's not going to care that they're hurting a zebra. They're hungry. They're going to do what they need to do. And so same thing goes for making shelters and so on. So like bunnies and certain animals, they burrow underground. Some have dens. Some live in like sleep in trees. Like a beaver will chop down a tree to make a dam because that's what it needs to have to survive. And so humans, what we've figured out is the best thing for survival is to have shelter. And so, yeah, a tree that you're going to cut down that might have animals living in it, we don't say, oh, there's an animal in it, so I'm not going to have it until I find a tree that doesn't have it. We take care of ourselves first. If animal's trying to eat our food, we might kill the animal to keep our food safe. We might chop down the tree and so on and so forth. But where I do find it complicated, and I want to have further conversations about this, is at what point would the excess be not acceptable? So if we cut down trees and we build a house, and you have a family of 4 and you got 4 bedrooms and it's not a huge house or whatever, then you think of this as acceptable. But what if you had a house that cost twice as much or was twice as large and you only had a couple people living in it? At what point does the harm that comes from the resources you're using not connect with the need you have for it? And I think that's complicated. I don't know the right answer. I think it's probably best if we don't dwell on it too much, because we don't want our lives to be miserable just thinking of every little detail of what's wrong. But at the same time, we should try to think these things through, and every little bit we can do, we should do. If you go down to Starbucks to get a coffee, now you might end up doing the best thing you can do, which would be stop going to Starbucks and get your coffee in bulk, so you're not using too much packaging, and make your own coffee at home. But we're not all going to do everything perfect. So take your own mug and have them fill that mug up with coffee instead of using the plastic cups. And so I think we should just think about all these little details without overwhelming ourselves. Randall said, you didn't answer my question. Can you ask it again in here? Because I was thinking the question you asked me on my when I asked 4 questions, I was thinking that I did answer that when you posted it in chat. So we'll see. Steen said, I agree. It's a good point about the insects. Never thought about that. Steen, you were asking about my the new channel for Moral Philosophy. It's going to focus on veganism, but there's also going to be a lot on abortion and maybe a little bit on like circumcision and other moral philosophy. If you go to the Reasonable Vegan channel and then click on the community post, the top post on there has a link to the new channel. I just started it today. Click on that, subscribe. The first dozen videos uploaded to that will be videos that myself and Michael McCaffrey, who's part of that channel with me, have done on this Reasonable Vegan channel. But starting tomorrow, we're going to have our first live stream original content for that channel. It's going to be an abortion debate, and it'll be conception versus sentience. So essentially, if abortion at conception versus approximately like 9 to 10 weeks into pregnancy, which is when sentience is thought of. So anyways, it's going to be Michael and somebody else debating that, and I will be moderating the debate. And then we're going to have Garland Farms on soon on that channel, and it'll probably come to this channel as well. Me and Michael will be having a conversation with JD Garland, going over the various things that you've probably seen me and JD talking about involving crop deaths. And yeah, so anyways, anybody that can, go and subscribe to that channel, please. The reason for that channel is that I don't want this Reasonable Vegan channel to be bogged down with non-vegan topics like abortion and circumcision and so on. And so that channel will be one that works for all the different topics of morals. And then this one will keep the abortion stuff off of there. Okay, so Randall, for every one grass-fed finished regenerative steak equals one cow. For every salad equals multiple crop deaths. Okay, so Randall, it would depend on, well, first of all, it depends on the level of suffering and the level of death. So if you took, and I use this example all the time when I talk to people, if I had a plate with an apple on it and a plate with a steak on it, if more suffering and death were caused by getting that apple, then the more vegan thing to do would be to eat the steak. So we just have to figure out how much suffering and death is happening. A lot of non-vegans or anti-vegans like to attack this idea with crop deaths, and usually it refers to the insects. And I don't have any care about insects at this point, and maybe I will at some point. I care a little bit, but not like a crazy amount. But there are other deaths. There's rodenticides. There's the pesticides in the pests. The pests will get eaten by birds and it'll kill the birds. So we'd have to look at some studies and find out how many animals are dying and how many are suffering based on crop deaths. And then we'd have to compare that to how many animals would die with regenerative farming versus factory farming. And who knows, maybe the right answer actually is something like keeping and raising and killing cows. But that's only if it's the right answer. That can only be chosen with the accurate information. So hopefully that's not too confusing. Jeremy said, how many humans can exclusively grass-fed regenerative steaks support, especially if the crops that it regenerates are also avoiding crop deaths? Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I don't know. I think that question's to Randall. So, Carson, have you ever studied animism? No, considering how I took a little while to figure out how to say that word. All life had counterparts on the inner planes. There's an actual spiritual plane. I'm not really religious or spiritual in any way, so I don't think of things in that way. But I'm fascinated by all topics, so I don't mind looking into the animism. But you don't need to live in a house to survive. Seems like you're choosing your comfortability over animal lives. These are arguments people use against me, and I have no good reason for them. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And we do to some extent choose being comfortable. So yeah, it's really complicated because so in a sense you can live without money, but then you have to figure out where to get your food from, and if you live in a society, that's going to dictate that a lot. And then if you have a family, you're going to want to do certain acts to take care of them. And so yeah, it's complicated. I don't know what the exact answers are, but I would say that if you live in a house and the person you live in a house with wants to move into a bigger house just because they like the fanciness of it and they just want this huge house with this huge land. I think there's good reason to say no, let's not do that. That's not a good thing. But I don't know to what extent, like if you have extra rooms in your house, like should you offer them to homeless people because you're not using them? Because then you got to factor in, okay, well, what if they're dangerous and they hurt you or your loved ones? And so anyways, it's complicated. Um, but I'm going to go with that for now. And but I think it's a topic very worth discussing. Regenerative farming is super rare, and for animals to eating only grass, it is even more rare. At some point, like during the winters or droughts or whatever it is, you'll need crops, or they'll need crops. Yeah. Um, Okay, so that would be the key ethical difference. That answers your question right there. I'm not concerned with myself and my family being as close to pure as possible or in a little bubble. So, what if it's rare? Cows and bisons do just fine off the grass, for example, in New Zealand. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't. There's obviously a huge difference between something living out in nature and doing fine versus being on a plot of land. But yeah, I don't know. I don't whether it's the vegan side or the non-vegan side. I don't like the idea of arguing from like what's likely to be achievable worldwide. I think we can each do our own actions based off what we think is right or moral. So I don't eat animal products. I haven't for 8 years, and I feel like I'm doing just fine. If Randall here has done some calculations and feels like he's causing less suffering by eating meat from regenerative farms. I'm not in favor of that, and I'd want to be shown why that is. But the idea that the whole world couldn't do it doesn't mean that he shouldn't do it. Um, it would just be if it's right or wrong that you shouldn't do it. The whole world not being able to do it would just be something you figure out when it gets to the level of the whole world doing it. If people don't think the whole world could go vegan, then if half of the world went vegan and then we started realizing, oh, there's not enough land or food to go vegan, then we'd have to do whatever we have to do. I mean, it wouldn't just be let's kill off half of them. We could decide if we think if it's moral to kill some animals to eat them if that's all we had and the world couldn't go vegan. But debating over what's possible when something's possible now, because let's say it would be impossible for the world to go vegan. The world could still be vegan because the vegan thing to do would be to eat animals, just to eat as little as you needed. So I don't consider that not the vegan answer. You just eat as little as you needed. Steen found it and subscribed. Thank you. Thank you. My question was about the irony of the vegan diet literally results in more death. Randall, do you mean deaths including insects? Because I think it matters. Now, some vegans care about insects but don't care about deaths when they're protecting their food. Now, I personally find that to be silly, and I want to be convinced otherwise because I don't think that's reasonable. If you're protecting your food, if you could eat animal products or plants, and to protect your plants, you cause more suffering and deaths to animals, then the more moral thing to do would be to eat the animals. This is clear to me. This is very clear to me. But I don't think it's reasonable to assume that there's more suffering and death to protect the crops. I think there might be more deaths if you include all the insects. I don't know if it's fair to consider the suffering level that high. I don't know how quick the insects die. I don't know how much the insects value their own lives. But yeah, just the argument that it's a rights violation that animals are doing to you, so it's okay to kill them in crop deaths. That seems like a silly excuse to try to make something match your current morals. I think what we should be doing is trying to figure out what is moral, not trying to be right about what we previously thought to be moral. So it's worth thinking about. But also, I don't think we should harm ourselves by pesticides on food. Now, I might be speaking from privilege, and if the only way to feed the world is to use pesticides, then that's fine, and that is what it is. But using something like cow manure to fertilize organic foods, I care more about not getting pesticides in me, so I'm going to buy the organic food, even if it uses the fertilizer, the manure, and I'm just going to hope that if it's more humane, that the veganic farming takes off, and I would much rather purchase organic produce that was from a veganic farm than purchase the ones that use manure. But I'd much rather purchase the produce that use manure than the ones with the pesticides on them. And not because the pests are dying, but because I don't want the pesticides inside myself. But then also separately because the pests are dying. So, okay. Is there a channel you have that will be uploaded with all your content? I'd like to see your abortion, religion, veganism stuff all on one channel. Yeah. So, no, that's a good point. So I have 3 channels. There's the one that I started first with just my name, Carson Hughes, and when my vegan stuff on that. So that channel is for politics and philosophy, just in general, all the stuff. When the veganism stuff started taking off on that one, but I realized that a lot of people were bothered by seeing the veganism stuff, and a lot of the vegans were bothered by the politics and philosophy, I decided to make the separate vegan channel. So we have this channel. So those are kind of just split up into 2. This third channel, which don't worry, I'm not going to be making more channels after that, I don't think. This third channel is just moral philosophy in general. So it'll be veganism and abortion and all these different things. And it'll be specifically stuff that I do with a partner on there. His name's Michael, and we're both going to be doing all those videos together. So everything vegan related that me and Michael do on there will come to this channel, and everything not vegan related will go to my other Carson Hughes channel, but will stay on the moral philosophy one as well. So no, there's not really a way to see everything all in one spot, because anything vegan related that's here that doesn't include Michael won't be on that channel. So that's a bummer. I mean, hopefully you're up for subscribing to both or all 3 channels. But as far as seeing them constantly, this will probably be the best one if your focus is on veganism. Maybe I'll figure out a good... I think it'd be cool if I did some kind of a mailing list or something where somebody that was interested in all the stuff I do, every time I do a new video on any of the channels, an email will shoot out saying, here, check out this new video. So that'd be kind of cool. Jesus Christ says, if suffering is happening, crop deaths, how do you justify the suffering as a vegan? Well, we want the least amount of suffering, so it would depend on where the least amount of suffering is. So I don't need to justify anything. I don't mind causing suffering if I need to. I'll cause something to suffer if I need to. If I was going to hit a person and I had to swerve to hit a dog, I'd rather hit the dog. That would cause suffering, but it would be justified, at least to my own personal opinion, because I care more about the person than the dog. If I was on an island and I was starving, I would eat a chicken. I'd also eat a human. So with the crop deaths, if there's suffering, I'd want to know how much suffering. I'd want to do everything in my power to reduce that suffering. And if the suffering was more than it was with killing and eating animals, then the more moral thing to do would be to kill and eat the animals. Now, I care more about my own health than I do about any of what we're talking about. So if it caused twice as much suffering, but was healthier for me to eat apples and broccoli, then I'm going to eat the apples and broccoli, even if it causes more suffering. But if it was equally nutritious to eat animal products, then I would go for whatever set of animal products were healthy for me and cause the least amount of harm. The basic idea is just cause the least amount of harm. So if you're watching this and you're not a vegan, then essentially what it's saying is if you eat meat, dairy, eggs, and also fruits, veggies, nuts, and all this stuff, and you punch dogs, don't punch dogs. Like it's not it's the joy you might get from making a dog suffer is not enough to make it worth punching the dog in the face. Okay, so the same thing would go for all these various different things. If you think that you should be able to eat animal products to be healthy, that's fine. If you eat deep fried chicken nuggets, then you're clearly not trying to be healthy. So you're just choosing your taste buds over these chickens. So if you're claiming to be healthy, then go for it. Eat all the thought of as like healthy animal products you want. But if you're eating ice cream and cake and cookies, things full of sugar, that you're making your body unhealthy, but you're putting these animals through the suffering of like the dairy industry to get to it, then there's no moral excuse for that. And so that's kind of where my focus is. It's not where the typical vegan focus is. I really want us all to work together to stop punching dogs in the face or doing anything equivalent to that. Do you think one cow suffers more than 100 of the deer, elk, pig, mice, rats, birds, so on and so forth? Okay, so I believe this is talking about... Okay, I think this is referring to the animals that suffer and die from the pesticides. So animals that eat the insects that have the pesticides in them that are affected, or in the case of like deer, maybe the deer eat grass or something on the ground and the fertilizer or the pesticides got on that. And anyways, a lot of birds die due to pesticides. So no, I agree. I just don't know what the numbers are. Dude, seriously, it's really that simple. Randall, send me the numbers. I need to see the numbers. I need to know per calorie how many animals suffer and die to get produce versus per calorie how much suffering and dying to get steak or chicken or whatever. And then you got to also factor in the crops that those animals eat. My guess is there's no way on earth there's more suffering with the crops, but don't just be mad at that idea. I'm with you. If we could just look at the numbers and it's like, okay, more suffering here. Any of the vegans that don't care about their health, any vegans that eat like Impossible burgers, no judgment, but the ones that do, they should quickly switch over to carnivore diet. If they are just doing it to care about the animals and you can show that there's more harm, I call out all vegans right now. If you are a vegan and you are in favor of eating unhealthy food, but eating a way that doesn't harm animals, and we can find out that the crop deaths that lead specifically to you, the individual, your food, cause more harm than eating the animals, the more moral and vegan thing to do and defensible of the animals thing to do would be to become a carnivore eater, eat only animals. Now, I think the dairy industry has got to be way worse than any other element of animal industries. So you wouldn't want to do dairy. Eggs, I don't know, not so much. So you'd probably want to eat eggs and meat to save the animals, if Randall's right. But you shouldn't just stand on like, I don't want to actively kill them, but if a farmer causes this harm by his pesticides and so on and so forth, then that's okay. Then I really don't know what you're doing. You're part of some wild cult because it feels good. But I don't think that's the case. I do not think that's the case with veganism. But we got to be fair, right? Right is right. Okay, Nikki said, so when people choose to eat animals, they are choosing their comfortability over animal lives, which is what you do with a house. So, like, there's no point to veganism if you don't practice it. Once again, people say that to me, and I can't respond to it. So it really comes down to... how convenient is something? If you just randomly punch a dog in the face and you didn't need to, you could easily stop that because punching the dog in the face has nothing to do with your livelihood. So if you could purchase an animal product that causes a certain amount of suffering, or you could purchase a non-animal product that causes less suffering, then that's a pretty easy choice to do. It doesn't affect your eating time really. You're just choosing not to do this more harmful thing, and you're considering the fact that you have to eat, and you're just in this world, living this world. Choosing to not live in a house adds so many different things to it. So in the society you live in, unless you can go to a different society where you'd have a high likelihood of surviving, if you want to have a job, you have to have a house of some kind. You have to have the ability to take a shower and put on clean clothes. So if you choose not to live in a house because you don't want to harm animals, then you're just going to be homeless on the street, and then you're probably going to have to give in and eat animals. So really, it's a simple and hard answer. It's I'm going to do what I'm going to do to survive. I choose myself over animals, and therefore you're going to live in a house of some kind. But no, honestly, if you're by yourself, you don't have a family, I would constantly be trying to find the cheapest apartment possible, the cheapest, smallest house possible, where I can have a shower to be able to be presentable for whatever job I needed. And having some luxury house, I would consider less vegan than having a small house. So yeah. I also find it very, very rare for carnists who claim only eat grass-fed, pasture-raised, actually do stick to only that meat source. They'll have ground beef and steak from wherever. Yeah, no. So I hear this all the time, and I think it's true. But we have to take people at their word, because what else can we do? You know, if you're talking to somebody and you say, "Hey, you shouldn't do this," and they go, "I'm only going to do the grass-fed, free range," then you go, "Okay, cool. That's better than the factory farm stuff." Knowing that there's a likelihood that some of those people are lying doesn't really change anything. You kind of got to take them at their word. If it's friends, then you can call them out when you see a thing. You don't have to be like the douchey friend nobody wants to be around. But if you convince somebody to at least reduce or to eat grass-fed, free-range stuff, then if you see them eating at McDonald's or something, say, "Hey, what are you doing that for? You're making that animal die and suffer just for your taste buds." And like remind them, like, if you're gonna eat animals for health, whatever, but it's really not cool to kill animals just for your taste buds. So you see them with fast food, make them feel uncomfortable about that. Make them feel like they want to, at very least, hide it. Make them feel like they shouldn't view that as normal. When I see pregnant people smoking, I can't help but have a look of disgust on my face. Like, I don't care if they see me and think that I'm disgusted by them. Maybe we should normalize that when it comes to unhealthy eating in public, at all, vegan or not vegan. But like somebody eating McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, just kind of have a look on your face like, what the gross heck are you doing? All right, I'm going to skip around a little bit, mostly looking out for the messages specifically to me. How do you not care about insects? Insects are part of the sentient argument. Your logic is like a non-vegan saying, "I don't care about non-human animals like pigs." Maybe it is, but I'm just not aware of it. Like I just don't have many thoughts on insects. Maybe this is something I need to think about more. Maybe the next time I talk to a fellow vegan, I should have them kind of challenge me on this. Maybe I just need to read up on it more. But it's kind of like fish. So fish, I believe the general consensus is that they suffer somewhat. But it's very well known that the part of the brain that humans and other mammals have that detects suffering, that fish don't have that part of the brain. So something must detect suffering, but it's not that part of the brain. And so a lot of people assume that fish, when they're kind of freaking out on a hook, that they're really just reacting the same way they'd react in water, but they're not in water. And so if they weren't suffering and didn't have a will to live or whatever, if they were more like a mussel or clam or whatever, then their value wouldn't matter that much. Now, I don't eat fish. I value fish, but I probably value mammals more than fish for this reason, especially because I can't hear them. I can't hear them cry out. And that might be a personal, emotional added element, but it is what it is. So the same thing with insects. An ant is kind of like on a mission. It has this robotic idea. It's going to do this thing. Um, and if it gets squished, if a leg gets broken off, the ant's not going to stop and check on its leg. It just keeps its mission. It's kind of wild. And so, without reading the scientific evidence of their level of sentience, I just have to assume that I value them less than other sentient creatures. And so the same thing would go for most insects. I don't witness them bleeding or suffering or making noises. So me viewing them as sentient or mattering as far as value goes just comes down to scientific understanding, and it's just not something I've gone over. Um, anyways, I just think it's complicated, and yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But these ideas aren't reasons to just not do anything. These ideas aren't like, oh, insects feel pain and we have to kill them to put these chemicals here, so we should just not care about anything. I mean, you still care about the things you care about. I mean, so this person, Jesus Christ, is the one that mentioned this thing. If insects are sentient and therefore you care about their suffering, then why aren't you vegan? And if you're not vegan because you don't care about their suffering, then why do you care about like human suffering? I really don't. I don't know what people are getting at with this type of thing. Their goal is to counter the idea of something like veganism, and their goal isn't to come up with an answer for what's moral or makes sense, or at least that's what it comes across like. Um, Even if a meat-based person eats some plants, their diet still results in less death. I don't know, maybe. Haz says, why do you think Cosmic Skeptic decided to stop calling himself vegan if he is truly eating animal flesh and secretions only to the extent that he supposedly needs them for his survival? I think he stopped calling himself vegan out of respect. I think he did a handful of conversations with people where he was essentially saying kind of what I say about what makes somebody a vegan. He talked about maybe some tribes toward the top of Canada, how if they can only eat certain, like they have to eat animals. Let's just say like Eskimos or something. Like they live in an area where they can only eat animals, and they don't have other options. So since they can't practically eat other options, are they not vegan? And it's kind of like the whole eating a chicken on an island. If you're a vegan, you go to an island, you're stuck there, you eat some chickens, you come home, you're back to vegan again. Like, were you a vegan the whole time? And because it wasn't possible to be vegan on that island for whatever reason, that the point Alex was making with these types of things is that if it's not really possible for you or harder for you or whatever, that you should still be considered a vegan. And pretty much everybody countered what he was saying. And so therefore, when he stopped doing it, he's calling himself not a vegan. If the definition of veganism switched over to the idea of extending moral consideration to non-human animals, then Alex would definitely identify as a vegan. So I think that's the reason. Okay, I do got to get going, so I'm going to skim through just the ones that say at reasonable vegan, mostly. Daniel said, crop death stuff is a anti-vegan distraction. There are ways of growing without industrial methods. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, it's a distraction, but it's also a distraction we should look into. And the fact that there are good methods does not mean that in the meantime, if it were worse, that we shouldn't care. So there are veganic forms of farming that don't include pesticides or manure, but there's very few of them. So we still have to pick between the foods grown with manure or pesticides. If we choose the pesticides, which most vegans do, that's killing off a lot of animals. So I do think it's a distraction, but if it happened to kill off more, there is no morally acceptable way to say that it's reasonable to choose that one. And The fact that there are other methods would just mean that if you can be supplied by foods that use those other methods, then that's great. Or in the future, you eat the foods that use those methods, that's great too. But just pointing out that the other methods exist does not justify the demand you put for it. So if you go to the store and buy non-organic foods that use lots of pesticides and kill lots of animals, you're putting that in demand, just like the people that go and buy animal foods. So it's complicated. Don't stress out about it. It's not the end of the world. I don't think you should stop being vegan. It would take the crop death people showing evidence that more animals are harmed by crop deaths. And I don't think that's the case, but we should be open-minded to it. I personally think that we should eat organic, though. We should treat our bodies well. We should eat healthy, whole foods, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. Don't eat garbage. Treat your body well. And then as we develop to figure out new innovations with growing food, through veganic farming and various different things, then we can do away with the manure. But for now, I think we just got to take that manure. You talk about not wanting to cause suffering via your vegan diet. Do you acknowledge that it's wrecking the ecosystem? I don't know anything about it wrecking the ecosystem. You would have to show me. I also hunt. That one elk will last me almost a year. Meanwhile, many animals had to perish for a vegan smoothie. No, that's great. I don't know if hunting is better than being vegan, but hunting an elk living its whole life in nature and then being shot and dying quick, I think is better than almost all forms of animal agriculture. So I'm glad you're doing that versus other things. If that elk is going to last you a long time, that's great. All the things that I could try to talk people into and the legislation I could want, regulations for various things like not cutting off teeth and tails of pigs, ending the dairy industry, all these things. The least of my worries would be hunting. Go hunt. Go hunt. I'm all for sustainable hunting. Okay, that's for somebody else. I do want to read that though. I would also hunt if food became scarce. My point is, I've never met a carnist who isn't on only quality meat. They cheat and any type of meat weekly. Gotcha. Yeah. Jesus Christ says, so you're just brushing off my question. If crop deaths is happening for your living conditions, even if one insect was killed in the process, how do you justify it? I don't know what you mean by how do you justify it? How do you justify it? How do you consider it just? How do you, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. I just don't care. I don't know. So again, if we break it down to like if I was on an island with a chicken and the chicken was the only thing I could eat, I would eat it. I would eat it because I want to survive. The justification is wanting to survive? I don't know. How do you not justify it? I don't know what you mean. I hope you can explain it further. I'm against feedlot beef. Still hunting and regenerative beef result in less death than vegan diet. That might be true. You're going to have to show me. But I'm glad you're doing it. I think what you just described and someone like Michaela Peterson and various different people, even Garland, if they consume what they claim to consume, they are doing better than more than 90% of people in North America. So that's good. Keep doing that thing. I'm mostly here to talk about the worst elements of factory farming and to convince people to reduce and so on and so forth. If somebody becomes vegan, that's great. But really, it's just don't harm animals. I want people to stop punching dogs in the face. As soon as that's covered, I want people to stop, cutting off tails of pigs just for fun. Jesus Christ says, as you're just talking about less death, organic grass-fed beef, is the least amount of harm in the process of gathering food. Grasslands requires the least amount. If you're right, you're right. That's great. My email is in the about section of my channel. Send me an email. Send me some studies. I want to look at it. I want to know the answer to this. So yeah. AV is here. Hello, AV. There's going to be new faction of vegan, Carson's Vegans. I think I qualify. Yeah, you probably do. If you care about, like, if you truly are convinced that by studies that it's good to eat animal products and you are eating only the amount you need to be healthy, and you are not consuming stuff that you know is unhealthy, like chicken nuggets and ice cream and cake and all these various different things that make animals suffer and die for, if you're only consuming the parts you need to be healthy, then in my mind, that's what a vegan is. And I welcome you to the group. Pesticides, reasonable vegan. Okay, this is from Jeremy to me. It says, but what if you could do what you just described, but it was impossible for most of humanity to do? Ooh, I don't remember what I just described because this is from 20 minutes ago. Sorry, man. Okay. Sebi says, are humans and animals of equal moral consideration? If not, why not? If so, would you save 2 rats over 1 human baby? No. So I don't think they're of the same moral consideration. I value myself above everyone else. I value my loved ones above everyone else. I value humans above non-human animals. And then there are different ranges for non-human animals, but mostly it's just based on the sentience. I would not sacrifice a human to save any number of animals unless it affected the ecosystem. And I base that on not having enough knowledge to know for sure if animals have a care to exist. They have a built-in instinct to survive, but I don't know if they have a care to exist. And I know humans, for the most part, they do have a care to exist. And so I value humans for that reason and a couple others. But yeah, so no on that. Jeremy says 0.1% of people stroking themselves by eating truly grass-fed carnivore, while the rest have to eat cheap factory farmed meat and eat plants anyways, is no solution. Yeah, that sounds like no solution for sure. Nikki says, but if people have different comfortability thresholds, how can I blame someone for eating animals if they claim it's for their comfortability in society, just like the house is comfortable to you? Yeah, so that's kind of what life's all about. We all have conversations and we all discuss with each other why we think something is right or wrong. If you see a friend or a non-friend that's willing to talk to you doing something you think is wrong, you should explain to them why you think it's wrong. Now, there are many things that are immoral that should go into law. So you can't punch somebody in the face, even if that makes you feel comfortable. You can't kill somebody just because if you think somebody is a horrible human and you killing them would make you feel comfortable, you can't do it just because you feel comfortable. And but you can cut down trees and make a house because it makes you feel comfortable, because there aren't laws against that, and I don't think there should be. But there should be laws against cutting out the teeth of pigs and cutting off the tails of pigs. There should be laws involving the dairy industry. There are probably a handful of laws that should go in place when it comes to some moral issues. But there can't be laws in place for everything because it gets kind of complicated. And so when it comes down to stuff that doesn't have laws that you think there's moral concern, we just discuss it with each other. Like, I think there should be a law outlawing circumcision. And hopefully that goes into place. But until it goes into place, I would just have conversations with people explaining why I think they shouldn't do it. So with this idea of you talking to people that eat animals, I hate when vegans are super negative and making veganism look bad when they talk to non-vegans. You should just be trying to convince the person with a good argument and be really nice to them. So in this case, if they feel comfortable like if somebody says they don't think you should punch a cow in the face for no reason or punch a dog in the face for no reason, then they would think that to harm an animal, a cow, a pig, whatever, that there would have to be good reason. And mostly the only good reason you're going to hear is somebody saying that it's healthy. So if they claim that it's healthy, then you just say, okay, so eat the stuff you think is healthy, but you know it's not healthy to eat corn dogs, hot dogs, chicken nuggets, like deep fried meat stuff, or dairy used for sugary things like cakes and cookies and all that stuff. So if they're willing to harm an animal just to feel good on their taste buds, then I think that's worth telling them, like, that's immoral. Like, what are you thinking? That's outrageous. And the only reason they won't think of it as immoral is because they have so many people on their side that are also doing it. So I don't know the best way to approach it, but it seems pretty clear to me the elements of how right or wrong that might be compared to how big your house is, when a smaller house would have caused less resources to be used. Sorry for harping on the topic. I'm genuinely curious to your responses. Yeah. Oh, no worries at all. I love having conversations like this, and I love reading questions like this. And you seem like a very honest, good person. So, Jesus Christ said, your argument for insect sentience is equivalent to vegans say, well, I already read this one. So communicate. Okay. Non-humans communicate language, are self-aware. Therefore, who cares? I don't know if I follow why you think that. Let's see. Can we get a collab with Joey Carbstrong, Earthling Ed, LVL, Vegan Gains? So me and Vegan Gains did a debate. You can find that on my channel. Honestly, I don't imagine. I think Joey and Earthling Ed might be a bit too tricky to get a hold of. But LVL, I imagine that happening. Yeah, so I would like to talk to them. Scrolling through. AJ from Turning Veganese says, shooting an elk on purpose is definitely not better than crop deaths. In fact, it isn't even good, and vegans don't say go hunt. Compared to what? If you are a vegan and you think animals should not be harmed or killed, and somebody is constantly paying for factory farming by buying meat in stores, and they say, hey, should I do this or should I go hunt? If you're a vegan and your response is not go hunt, then you're letting your principles of language get in the way of what's moral and truly the vegan thing. So yeah. But also the crop death element. I don't know what the number is, but yes, there are probably many cases of crop deaths and food from crop deaths where killing an elk with a very good shot of quickly dying, I don't know anything about hunting, but it dying quickly, versus cases where animals that are coming out of farms are getting hunted by crop hunters, or ratting, the process of ratting. Yeah, there are probably some cases where hunted elk meat is more vegan than eating the produce that comes from certain crop deaths. But it's complicated. It's not a route I have any intention of going, especially because the health aspect. I don't think it's healthy to eat meat. So, Vegan for the Animal says there is not enough elk for people. What the F? You say go hunt. Why you say that? Telling people to kill animals when they don't need to. I'm sure he has access to a grocery store. You would rather somebody purchase factory farmed meat at a grocery store than go hunt? I don't know if that's what you're claiming, but I find that outrageous. But yes, the not enough elk for people, sure. I don't know what the numbers are going to be for if the whole world can go vegan or if the whole world could go regenerative farming. So either side of the aisle with that argument. the whole world going hunting versus the factory farming, any of that stuff. I just know that each individual can do their own actions of what's good or not. So us vegans, we don't eat animal products. And if we can get other people to not do so, that would be awesome as well. But if somebody eats factory farm food and they're eating McDonald's and all this junk food and whatever, and they can just go off and shoot, or let's say they have a professional hunter go kill them an elk and that lasts them a whole year, that's amazing compared to the factory farm stuff. So anyways, I have no interest in like promoting hunting like over veganism or something. It's just over the worst option. Turning Veganese says, are you going to make that video response to debug your brain, or are you going to graciously take an L? Well, blah, blah. Yes, I am going to do that video as soon as I get a chance. Today actually might have been a good day for that, but I can't do it now. But yes, I will do that. Jeremy says, yeah, there's about 1 deer for every 10 people in the U.S. That would not last long. Okay, I know I'm afraid this dude is here to make confusion. No, not here to make confusion. Okay, AV says, I've charted out your vegan views and will be composing a new definition of veganism, which extends moral consideration to animals balanced against human interest. Interesting, yeah. Veganism Rising says, my position on veganism is respecting the freedom of animals to be animals, and as moral agents, we have the benefit of a clear, healthy conscience. The problem is you got to factor in the crop deaths. That shouldn't make you not vegan. It's not making me not vegan, but you got to factor it in. Of course, there is a hierarchy of animal interesting. I think there was an autocorrect of hierarchy turned into a hierarchy. That what's the spelling looks like that tradition in Japan where you fall on your sword. But anyways, insects, and it's local to take different considerations according. We do not need to make it work, but it's the least harm possible. We can compare definitions when you upload yours in June. Yeah, definitely. That'll be interesting. Sebi says, thank you for your work. You're welcome. Thank you. I hopefully more people will have conversations about veganism. I think this is very important. Humans are overpopulated. Why not hunt them? You should just tell him to kill humans. Okay. So here's the thing. We humans, we want to live. Like this is, I mean, you're saying it kind of like a joke, but seriously, we want to live. So we start a society so we can have laws and protections for ourselves. If we can't have protection to know we're not going to be killed by somebody else or else that person goes to jail, then we won't feel safe. So the rest of it doesn't matter, being vegan or not vegan or whatever. If somebody wants to end their own life because of veganism, go for it. But killing humans would mean that no human would feel safe. So we want this protection. The most important thing in the world, being in a society where you feel that your government is going to protect you from being killed. After that, you want your government to protect you from other forms of harm, and you want freedom of speech and freedom of actions that aren't harming others. After that, you have a handful of different things like property rights, but there are not an infinite number of resources, so property rights is complicated. But then after that, we look at morals. And so then anything that's not fallen under law or new laws we want based on morals would come in. And this is where veganism comes in. So all of the rest of that has to happen first. You have to be protected by humans, from humans, human to human. Protection has to come first, or the rest of it makes no sense. You wouldn't be in a society, you just live out in nature fighting for your survival. Okay. Jesus Christ says, how do you not know what I'm getting at with justifying the suffering of insects for food? I'm literally touching the ethos of what veganism is. Justify the suffering you're causing. What? I don't... Okay, I'm going to be done answering those questions unless you can form it in a way that I can fully understand. But Jesus Christ, you are welcome to join me on a live stream and talk. Actually, right now, if you're free to hop on here and talk for 5 minutes, I will send you a link and you can just hop in here and it'll be two of us instead of just me. But I'm kind of done attempting to answer that same question over and over. Have a good evening. Yes, AV, we'll see you. Daniel, animals care about humans. That's why they want to be near us. I don't know. That's just not my thing. But I thank you for sharing your thoughts. I agree with MGM. MGM. Oh, male gen. Okay. Awesome. That's really cool. It's becoming more popular now, so it's a relief. If for a while it was seeming that more people were in favor of baby circumcision, and I'm glad that it's becoming not popular to be in favor of that anymore. So that's great. I think that law will change in the near future. Vegan for the animals, being nice doesn't equal be evil. You just told someone to go hunt animals just so they don't need to eat. Yes, and hunting over the alternative that they are going to do. I'd rather them eat an apple than an elk, but I'd rather them eat an elk that they hunted than the factory farmed food. It seems obvious to me, but maybe not. I don't know. Should teaching children about hell be illegal? I don't think it should be illegal, but I don't think it's recommended. I respect people that are religious, but I really don't think a child that is going to accept everything you say should be taught about religion. Animals want to be near us. Dawkins famously wrote that he was more traumatized by hell than being fondled by a priest, and that makes sense to me. That's funny. If alleged he was famous fiction. Okay. Google what crops do deer, moose. Now imagine yourself in a farm. Stop eating for profit. Yeah, I'll look into it. If you come up with a good study for me, send it over. That'd be great. But yeah, I'll debate any vegans on here right now, including Reasonable Vegan. Okay, let's see. Invite, copy. I'm going to put this in the comments. Jesus Christ. If you want to click on this and join me, go for it. Hopefully this works in the comments. I've never done that before. Unless Reasonable Vegan wants to invite me to another vegan on right now and debate, not jump in. No, I don't necessarily have anybody for you to debate right now, but you can come on and talk to me and try to get me to understand what you're saying. I do got to hop off here in a sec. I actually should have hopped out of here. Let's see. False dichotomy. Vegan hunting an animal is never vegan. Stick to your principles would be better. No. That can't be right. If you care about, you got to figure out what you care about. If you care about animal suffering or death or both, and you could choose door A or door B, and door A leads to the factory farmed food that caused all this suffering and death, and door B leads to hunting and eating an animal that died really quickly and didn't have a horrible life. The vegan answer is door B. If those are your two doors, like choosing any of those won't sound vegan, but if those are your two options, if you're unwilling to make to announce which one you think is worse, then anyways. Veganism Rising said my last comment didn't show. Sorry about that. Send it again. That's not either suggest pastors except they do. See, there's all the infighting of the proper way to be vegan. We are not on the same page. The movement isn't going to work if we can't unite for what we're fighting for. Yeah, but the problem is that's kind of how it works for everything. Is there's no movement where everybody can like agree on all the little details. I'm mostly libertarian, but I disagree with a lot of libertarian ideas. So the same's going to go for all kinds of things. So we will never fully agree. But it is kind of irritating when something might seem clear to me and it's not clear to others. Let's see. The reason why crop deaths are vegan deaths is because it's not practicable um, not to have farming in our society, but it is practicable to not have animal agriculture. Yeah, Angelo, that what I'm curious about though is if one causes more harm, especially a lot more. Let's say it was 100 times more harm and suffering and death of animals to get the crops, and it was equally healthy to eat the animals. Would the better choice not be to cause 100 times less suffering and eat animals? Now, I wouldn't do that. I personally have an interesting stance where I care way more about my health than I do about animals. But once my health is covered, then I like looking at the rest. But Angelo, I'm really looking forward to your answer on that. Um, the reason why crop deaths. Oh yeah, I just read that. It's not a hypothetical that is sensible in the world vegans advocate in. Vegans are not going into the remote frozen tundra to sure, but anyways, yeah. You want actual B12, you need to get it from animals. Vegan B12 is terrible on the environment. This is an interesting point. So I don't agree. It seems like the studies show, at least the current studies we have now show that cyanocobalamin does really well. My B12 levels are actually very good. But there are a lot of studies that show that babies that are born to vegans often and vegetarians oftentimes have very low scary B12 levels. So it's all vegans should take B12, and if you, especially if you're going to have a kid, you got to double up on your B12. Not exactly double up, but anyways. But this is what I'll say: if it turned out that B12 supplements only gave you like 60% of the B12 you need, and you are going to be all right, but not the optimal health, I would like if I needed to eat one steak a month to get optimal B12, and that was the only way I could do it, would be like one steak or something equivalent. It's hard to say because I haven't had animal products in a long time, but I think I would do that. I would do what I have to do for my optimal health and for the optimal health of my loved ones, and I'd expect the same for other humans. And then after that, I would cause as little to no suffering as possible. But I haven't seen anything that shows that B12 is not fine in supplement form. If all people go vegan and we reduce our farmland usage significantly, that also reduces crop deaths due to the animal agriculture elimination. Oh no, fair enough. If the plants grown for the animals causes wild amounts of crop deaths, then not having those for the animals would reduce it. So it really comes down to which crops are used for humans, which ones are used for animals, which parts of them are used for animals. There's various things that we don't think about, like if you grow wheat, we can take the wheat for the humans, but the rest of the wheat plant, the majority of it, the hay, can go to feed animals. And so that wouldn't really count as a crop that's for animals. That's the crop that's for us, and the byproduct goes to them. So I think that's worth thinking about. Vegan for the animals. Don't you think animals want to live? Why do you think they run? Why you tell people to kill animals? That is insane for a vegan to say. Again, I'm not telling people to kill animals. I'm saying if you're going to eat factory farmed animals, it would be better to go hunting. It must be, right? It must be. Now, animals want to live. Yeah, I mostly, my actions go along with that. So I'll say yes, animals want to live. Randall, do you think that animals don't get synthetic B12 in their diet? Okay, here we go. Let me scrolly. Since humans are omnivores and not herbivores, will you accept that I am justified in eating meat? And mortality has nothing to do with me eating meat once a human is not harmed. Mortality has nothing to do. I'm not sure exactly what that part's about. But yeah, no, it's complicated. I think we would need way more studies than we have now for me to feel comfortable telling people that that they need to stop eating animal products and that it should be illegal to eat animal products. We need way more studies. But yes, I would consider omnivores. Well, it's complicated. Not that the labels matter. But we are probably something like our closest relative, which is chimpanzees, and they mostly eat fruit with a little bit of leafy greens, nuts, and stuff like that. They also eat some insects and sometimes other monkeys. I believe the animal products they consume are maybe about 4% of their diet. Now we can get stuff through supplements, but is it optimal? I don't know. And so I think optimal health is good. But what I will say is if you, and I know that you've said before that you don't eat the processed stuff, but that's kind of the bigger concern is, humans need to knock it off with the fast food, with the cakes and the donuts and all that stuff. Okay. So I put the StreamYard link in here and I can see it here now. It looks like it's not clickable. You would have to copy and paste it. But maybe that person, Jesus Christ or whatever, left. Okay, no, they're here, and they said to Rats, Pickles, and Music, which is Wendy, to get on there to debate. So they don't want to debate me, but they want to debate somebody else. I don't know. Let's see. Well, I guess Jeffrey Dahmer was a welfarist or even vegan. He made sure to put his victims to sleep before murdering them. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to murder people, that's the nice route to go. I'd want to be put to sleep if somebody's going to murder me. Hunting entails killing. Carson, how do you not understand that? I know it does. But factory farmed animals that are killed, it's worse for them. It must be better to hunt than to factory farm. It must. Driving me crazy. Well, now I'm just curious if that link worked. But he didn't click on it or copy it. Okay. Hunting causes less harm than factory farming. That's his point. Less overall suffering. Not that hard of a concept to understand, right? Thank you. Jesus Christ, that's a huge burden on you to demonstrate such a claim. Is it? Is it? I don't think it is. I'm going to ponder that more. I actually got to hop off here. But you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care.